They've lied to your face again. And this time, they're calling it a reality check. Yeah, right. More like a last-minute scramble, because their renewable fantasy is flopping harder than a B-grade footy team in the finals. You've been fed the dream of cheap, clean, reliable energy. But what have you got? Sky-high power bills, dodgy blackouts, and a government that's quietly crawling back to gas. After calling it a joke just one election ago, they mocked it, scoffed at it, called it outdated. Now, they're begging for it like a broke bloke at the servo counter trying to buy smokes with loose change. Welcome to the real Australia, not the one they sold you in campaign ads. Before we tear into this gas-fueled disaster, where Albo backflips harder than an NRL winger, Dutton says bugger all, and the media acts like nothing's wrong, smash that like button like you're slapping your power bill in disbelief. Subscribe if you're done getting fleeced by fake green promises. And chuck on the "Is this the better Australia you promised?" T. Links in the description before your next blackout hits. Here's the stitch-up. The same mob that swore blind renewables were the future. Solar panels, wind farms, the whole crunchy granola circus are now silently slipping back into fossil fuels. And not just any fuels. Gas. You know, that same evil, earth-heating, soul-crushing villain they screamed about for years. Suddenly, it's their plan B. Plan bloody backflip, more like it. And who's paying the price? You, your power bill, your job security, your kids' future. While they flip-flop in Canberra, we're out here cooking in the heat, freezing in the dark, and wondering where the hell the better Australia actually went. You're not going to hear this on the ABC. Nah, mate. They're too busy hosting panel shows with climate warriors who haven't worked a tradie job in their lives. But out here, in the real world, people are copping it hard. Prices are through the roof. Manufacturing's on its knees. And what's Canberra's solution? Create a gas reserve they laughed at 2 years ago. It's not leadership. It's panic disguised as policy. They're patching holes in the sinking ship while telling you it's just a bit of rain. And don't even start me on the activists. These eco-elites live in million-dollar terraces in the inner city, sipping almond lattes and ranting about emissions while their heaters crank in winter. They tell you to electrify your home, like everyone's got a spare 30 grand sitting in the glove box. They reckon ditching gas will save the planet. Meanwhile, the only thing getting saved is their social media credibility. It's all optics. No plan. No clue. Just vibes and virtue signals. But here's the spicy bit they don't want you to know. This gas reserve idea? It's not new. It's not radical. It was a coalition policy all along. The same one Labor mocked like it was some sort of flat earth conspiracy. Remember that? They called it outdated. Backward. Climate denialism. Now they're trotting it out like it's the second coming of policy genius. The hypocrisy stinks worse than a long drop at a bush doof. And guess what? No one's apologizing. No, sorry, we got it wrong. Just quiet whispers in the press and anonymous sources pretending it was always part of the plan. Absolute rot. And let's talk about energy security. Because if you think your lights will stay on just because we're building more wind farms, I've got a solar-powered bridge to sell you. Renewables ain't ready. Not now. Maybe not ever. They're intermittent. Unreliable. And until someone invents a magic battery the size of Tasmania, we're stuck. You can't run an industrial economy on vibes and sunshine. You need baseload. You need reliability. You need, dare I say it, gas. But instead of owning up to that, the government's been playing green dress-up like a toddler wearing dad's work boots. Now, some of you are thinking, but renewables will work eventually. All right, I'll bite. When? Give me a date. A year. A decade. Because for the last 10 years, we've been told it's just around the corner. Meanwhile, families are choosing between heating their homes and feeding their kids. Businesses are shutting down because they can't keep up with the electricity bills. And all the while, we're exporting our own gas to other countries, while our own people cop the short end of the stick. What kind of clown show is that? But here's the kicker. They've known this all along. They knew the numbers didn't add up. They knew offshore buyers would outbid the local market. And they let it happen anyway. Why? Because it looked good on a campaign poster. because saying net zero gets more headlines than saying we might need gas for another 30 years. They sold you a fairy tale, and now they're scrambling to rewrite the ending. And guess what? You're still the one paying the price. Now let's zoom out a sec. While we're tripping over our own shoelaces in Canberra, guess what China's doing? They're building coal plants like it's a national sport. America? They're fracking gas out of every corner of the country. India? Ramping up every energy source they've got. These countries are powering ahead while we're stuck in climate confession booths apologizing for every kilojoule. It's not green policy. It's economic self-harm dressed in a hemp suit. And if you think this is just about energy, mate, you're missing the big picture. This is about sovereignty, independence, the right to control our own resources, keep the lights on, and build a future that's not held hostage by overseas markets or activist tantrums. And if that means digging up gas we already have, then let's bloody do it. Instead, we've got pollies waffling on about transition while the country bleeds. Let's be honest. This whole thing smells like a bait and switch. You thought you were voting for a future-proof energy plan. What you got? A giant science project with your livelihood as the guinea pig. And now that it's going belly up, they're hoping no one notices the gas-shaped band-aid they're slapping on it. Well, we noticed, and we're not buying it. You ever wonder why the politicians don't seem too fussed about the energy chaos? It's because they don't live in your world. They don't get power bills. They don't lose sleep over gas shortages. Their lives are powered by taxpayer-funded perks and bureaucratic hot air. It's all theatre to them. A big stage where they pretend to fight for your future while secretly covering their own asses. And while we're at it, let's call out the so-called climate emergency. If it's so urgent, why are we exporting gas by the boatload and importing Chinese solar panels made in coal-powered factories? It's all a bloody contradiction. We're hurting our own industries to look virtuous on the world stage. And the world's not even watching. They're too busy fueling up their own economies while we argue over carbon credits and whether cows are too flatulent. And now, to really twist the knife, they're floating new taxes to fund this chaos. Carbon levies, green surcharges, transition fees. It's just a fancy way of saying, we stuffed up, now you pay. They're not cutting waste. They're not fixing the grid. They're just slapping on more charges and calling it sustainability. You can't make this up. It's not policy. It's punishment. And it's being handed down by people who wouldn't last a day without their espresso machines and Teslas. You know what would actually help? Defunding the activists, cutting the red tape, fast-tracking energy projects that work instead of ones that feel good. But nah. That'd upset too many people in the cocktail circuit. So instead, they'll let your lights flicker and your wallet shrink while patting themselves on the back for their climate leadership. This whole saga is one big flaming hypocrisy. And it's not just bad policy, it's dangerous. If we lose our grip on energy, we lose our grip on the whole show. No lights, no jobs, no future. But hey, at least we'll have good ESG scores and a nice pat on the head from the UN, right? That'll keep you warm when the heater stops working because your power got cut again. And let's not forget the absolute media circus around this. Mainstream journos lap it up like it's gospel, never asking the tough questions. Isn't this good for the planet? They croon, while ignoring the fact that the same government now admitting renewables don't cut it is the one they praised to the heavens just months ago. No apologies, no accountability, just more spin than a cyclone in Darwin. Still think you're getting the whole story? Think again. You're getting spoon-fed a PR campaign, not a plan. And it's high time we called it for what it is. A cock-up of epic proportions that's left Australia more vulnerable than ever before. You've got a government that bet the farm on a tech that doesn't deliver. And now they're backpedaling so fast they're leaving skid marks all the way from Canberra to Karratha. But here's the real kicker. Even now, as they pivot back to gas, they still won't admit they were wrong. That would require honesty, integrity, accountability. Nah. Easier to quietly change course and hope no one notices. But we notice. And we're done being treated like mugs. You don't get to sell us snake oil. then act shocked when we choke on it. And if you reckon this is all just some minor policy tweak, think again. This is the future of your power, your job, your family's comfort, all hanging in the balance while bureaucrats pretend with your livelihood. They sold us the dream, and now that dream's turned into a bloody nightmare of high bills, broken promises, and cold homes. And guess what? We're only just getting started. Righto, strap in, because we're about to rip the Band-Aid clean off. And what's underneath ain't pretty. If you thought part 1 was brutal, this is the punch they really don't want you to feel. We're talking backroom deals, foreign interests, and a level of political cowardice that makes a jellyfish look tough. Because while you were trying to figure out why your power bills doubled, they were selling off your future to the highest bidder and smiling for the camera while they did it. Here's the dirty little secret no one in Parliament House wants to talk about. Australia doesn't have an energy crisis. We've got a leadership crisis. The energy mess is just the symptom. The real disease is weak-kneed, poll-driven politics run by people more worried about their image than your well-being. These are the same suits who couldn't screw in a light bulb without a focus group and a press release. And yet they've somehow convinced themselves, and the media, that they're the experts steering us to a clean future. Clean future? Don't make me laugh. What we're getting is a future where energy is so expensive, only the elites can afford comfort. Everyone else? You'll be told to adjust. They'll say, insulate your home, switch to heat pumps, get rooftop solar, as if those options are just sitting there at Bunnings on clearance. Meanwhile, they're sitting in taxpayer-funded offices with full AC, typing speeches about sustainability on Chinese-made laptops powered by coal. And let's talk about China, shall we? While we're shutting down coal plants faster than TikTok trends change, they're building hundreds of new ones. You think they care about emissions targets? Nah, mate. They care about power, dominance, and making sure their factories keep pumping. And guess who's bankrolling it? You. That's right. We import their solar panels, their wind turbines, their EV batteries, all built in coal-fired cities with bugger-all regulations. But sure, we're saving the planet. Pull the other one. You know what this is really about? Control. Plain and simple. Energy is freedom. The minute you control people's power, what they use, how much they pay, when they can use it, you control their lives. And the government knows it. That's why they're pushing smart meters, time of use pricing, and grid rationing. It's not about the environment. It's about compliance. You'll be cold when they say you can be cold. You'll be warm when the algorithm allows it. And you'll pay more, always more, for less. Remember when energy used to be boring? It was reliable. You flipped a switch and the lights came on. No drama, no lectures, no guilt. Now every watt is political. You're a climate criminal if you run your dryer. A planet killer if you use gas. A selfish pig if you question the transition. Well, bugger that. We didn't sign up for energy sermons. We signed up for a functional country that actually worked. And yet here we are in the richest resource nation on Earth, and we're importing fuel, rationing electricity, and begging renewables to behave. It's embarrassing. We've got gas reserves that could power the country for generations. Coal, that's the envy of the world. Uranium we won't even touch. And instead of using it smartly, we're held hostage by climate activists who think living in the dark is virtuous. You ever notice how the people pushing hardest for net zero are the ones who will never feel the pain of it? Celebrities, bureaucrats, academics, all living in their cushy little bubbles with backup generators and solar arrays. The rest of us? We're the lab rats in their grand experiment. If it works, they'll take the credit. If it doesn't, they'll say we didn't adapt fast enough. It's a scam. A giant, taxpayer-funded ego trip with you stuck holding the bill. And don't get me started on the media. These clowns don't ask questions. They repeat talking points. Isn't renewables cheaper in the long run? They parrot, ignoring the fact that we've been paying more every bloody year. Isn't gas bad for the environment? They mumble, while sipping lattes in cafes powered by, wait for it, gas. The hypocrisy is sickening. And the worst part? They still think they're the good guys. Mate, if the media was doing its job, this whole charade would have been exposed years ago. But nah, they're too busy fact-checking memes and quoting climate experts who've never worked a day outside a lab. They won't tell you your energy prices are high because of failed government policy. They'll tell you it's Putin, or the weather, or greedy power companies. Anyone but the politicians who rigged the system in the first place. And while they blame everyone else, the government's quietly trying to legislate even more control. Net zero by 2050? Try zero accountability by 2025. They want carbon tracking apps, digital ID tied to energy usage, green credits that'll reward you for freezing in winter like a good little citizen. It's not the future. It's a bloody energy social credit system. You think that's extreme? Just wait. They've already trialled it overseas. But don't worry, they say. It's voluntary. Like vaccine passports were voluntary. Like lockdowns were for your safety. We've heard this tune before. And every time, it ends the same. With the average Aussie losing another right, another choice, another bit of dignity, while the elites toast their progress with imported champagne. And here's the real stinger. None of this is necessary. We could have it all. Low prices, reliable power, a real transition that doesn't crush the working class. But that would mean making tough calls. That would mean saying no to green billionaires and foreign investors who've got our politicians in their back pockets. That would mean actually putting Australians first. And they won't do it. Because they're too busy managing their careers instead of managing the country. You reckon Albo's worried about your heating bill? Nah, he's got a full media team. And a tax-funded expense account. Think Dutton's going to save you? Please, the bloke's been quieter than a vegan. At a B&S ball. They're both playing the same game. Protect their donors. Feed you slogans and hope you forget it all by the next election. Well, don't forget. Don't forgive. And for God's sake, don't fall for this gas pivot like it's some kind of masterstroke. It's not a plan. It's a panic move from a government that's realized too late that their fairy tale doesn't work in the real world, and now they want you to pay the price for their mistake. Again, so here's what you do. You get angry, you get vocal, you ask questions that make them squirm. You vote like your future depends on it, because it bloody well does. This is bigger than gas, bigger than climate. It's about whether we get to run our own country, or whether we let a bunch of unelected suits in Geneva, or a mob of rich activists in Sydney tell us how to live. You want real progress? Stop treating energy like a religion and start treating it like infrastructure. Stop demonizing the workers who keep the lights on and start firing the bureaucrats who can't manage a toaster without a committee. And for the love of this sunburnt country, stop trusting politicians who've been wrong about everything. They told you renewables would make life cheaper. They told you gas was the enemy. They told you this was the better future. And now they're begging gas companies to bail them out. That's not policy. That's pathetic. So next time someone tells you to trust the plan, ask them which one. Because from where we're standing, the only thing they're planning is to keep you in the dark, both literally and politically. Catch you next time, legend. And don't forget to share this with someone who still thinks the government's got their back. Because they bloody need the wake up. And if your blood's boiling like mine, you know what to do. Slam that like button like you're slamming the door on another broken promise. Subscribe if you're done getting played. And grab that "Is this the better Australia you promised" tee. Wear it proudly. Wear it loudly. Because silence is compliance. And we're not doing that anymore. Stay loud. Stay cheeky. And never stop punching up. We'll see you in the blackout.